And so we have some big news. The New York Stock Exchange just announced that it's going blockchain. And I'm going to need you to sit down with that for a second because this is the NYSE, the institution that has literally been at the center of American capitalism for over 230 years. This is the place where fortunes have been made and lost since before the Civil War. That New York Stock Exchange, they just announced that they are building a platform for tokenized securities with 24/7 trading, instant settlement, and stablecoin based funding. Now, if that doesn't immediately make you stop and think, let me put it another way. Wall Street spent years, years, telling you that crypto was a scam, that blockchain was for criminals, that this whole thing was going to zero. And now, the largest, most prestigious stock exchange in the world is building on it. And so the question isn't whether tokenization is coming because that ship has long sailed. The question is, who is this actually for? And what does it mean for you and for your money? Because I think there's something deeper, much deeper going on here that a lot of people are going to miss. So now, before we go any further, I need you to understand something. This announcement from the New York Stock Exchange, it didn't happen in isolation, okay? In the span of about 30 days, we've had some of the most significant moves in financial infrastructure that I've seen in my lifetime. And I don't say that lightly. In December, I think it was December 11th, actually, 2025, the DTCC, which is the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, received a no action letter from the SEC. I talked about the DTCC in a previous video, but I'll summarize. They are responsible for clearing, settling, and the custody of almost every security transaction in the United States. We're talking about processing 3.7 quadrillion, that's quadrillion with a Q, in transaction volume annually, and they just got the green light to tokenize securities on approved blockchains starting in the second half of 2026. And then you have Nasdaq. Back in September of last year, Nasdaq filed with the SEC to allow tokenized security trading on the exchange. They're expecting this to go live potentially by Q3 of this year. And if that wasn't enough, you have BlackRock's BUIDL fund, so their tokenized Treasury fund, has grown to nearly 2.9 billion in assets under management. This thing launched in March 2024. It crossed 1 billion by early 2025. Now it's pushing $3 billion. And so when the NYSE comes out a couple of days ago and says, hey, by the way, we're also doing this tokenization thing, what you're actually looking at is a coordinated infrastructure build out across every single layer of the financial system. When every major player moves at once like this, you are not watching innovation, you are watching infrastructure replacement. But for whose benefit? Now, there's the surface level story, and then there's what's actually happening underneath, right? Because the surface level story is, oh, great, the New York Stock Exchange is modernizing 24/7 trading, instant settlement, fractional shares. Yay, this is good for retail investors. And look, some of that might be true. I'm not saying that there are no benefits here. But Wall Street spent years calling crypto a scam. And I want you to remember that. I want you to remember the talking heads that were going, oh, crypto is a fraud. It's for money laundering. It's going to zero. And now these same institutions aren't just dabbling in crypto, no. They are not just launching ETFs, they are fundamentally rewiring the infrastructure of global finance to run on blockchain rails. So, what changed? Well, I always say watch what they do and not what they say. Because what I'm seeing here is that the largest financial institutions in the world, they've decided that blockchain is not a threat to be destroyed, but that instead it's a technology to be absorbed and controlled. This isn't decentralization winning. This is centralized institutions that are figuring out how to use decentralized technology to make their operations more efficient. And that's a very different story than what a lot of people in the crypto space might want to hear. Now, I could be wrong about this. Maybe I'm being too cynical, but let me walk you through the details of what the NYSE actually announced, and you tell me what you think. And so, what is the New York Stock Exchange building? Well, first, 24/7 trading. You see, traditional markets close at 4 p.m. Eastern. With tokenized markets, trading never stops. Now, that sounds great on the surface, right? But here's the thing, and this is really important. Who actually benefits from 24/7 trading? Now, if you're a retail investor like you and me in London, Kansas City, New York, whatever, are you trading at 3 a.m. Tokyo time? Probably not. You're sleeping. But if you're an institution with global operations, algorithmic trading systems, capital deployed across multiple time zones, now you can react to news instantly. You can arbitrage opportunities around the clock. You can move faster than anyone else. And so I have to say, 24/7 trading sounds like a benefit for everyone. But in reality, what it does is it widens the information and execution advantage for those who can actually use it. And then you also have instant settlement because you see, right now, when you buy a stock, it takes T+1 to settle. So that means 1 business day, sometimes longer. And during that time, there's counterparty risk. There's capital tied up waiting for the trade to clear. But with tokenized securities, settlement happens almost instantly. Again, this sounds great, but who does this really benefit? Because if you're moving billions daily, that T+1 delay costs real money. That's capital that's stuck waiting to clear. For regular people buying a few shares, well, the difference is basically irrelevant. But for these large companies, well, that difference could mean millions, if not billions of dollars. Now, third, you have stablecoin based funding. And I think this one is really huge. And I don't think people are paying enough attention to it. You see, the NYSE explicitly said that their platform will support stablecoin based funding. And that means you'll be able to fund trades using stablecoins like USDC. So think about what that means. When the world's largest stock exchange accepts stablecoins for trade settlement, the whole debate about is crypto real money is over. The question has been answered, but it also brings stablecoins into the regulated perimeter under their control. Now, there's one detail in this announcement that I think a lot of people are going to maybe gloss over, but it's actually one of the most important pieces of the whole puzzle. And that's the whole concept of fungibility. So, what does that mean? Now, the NYSE specifically stated that tokenized shares will have the same QSIP number as traditional shares. They'll have the same dividend rights, the same governance rights, the same everything. In other words, a tokenized share of Apple is the exact same as a traditional share of Apple. It's not crypto Apple, it's the same actual security, just represented on a different rail. So, why does this matter? Because it prevents what's called liquidity fragmentation. You see, one of the concerns with tokenization has always been okay, well, this is cool, you tokenize an asset, but now you have two markets. You have the traditional market and the tokenized market. And if liquidity is split between these two markets, then it actually makes things worse and not better. But by making tokenized shares fungible with traditional shares, the same QSIP, the same rights, traded on the same order book, they've solved that problem. There's no fragmentation. It's all one market, okay? This is traditional stocks on new rails. And so when you hear people in the crypto space, celebrating this like some kind of victory for decentralization, I would push back on that a little because what this really is the traditional financial system that um, is absorbing the technology and integrating it into their own existing frameworks on their own terms, under their control. Does that make any sense? Right. Now, let's talk about the banks because this is where I think the narrative that a lot of people have had completely falls apart. For years, the story in crypto has always been blockchain is going to remove the banks as the intermediary, it's going to cut out the middlemen, power to the people. But let me tell you what's actually happening. In this NYC announcement, they specifically mentioned that ICE, which is the parent company of the NYC, is working with banks, including BNY and Citi, to support tokenized deposits across ICE 6 global clearinghouses. Now, BNY, that's Bank of New York Mellon, is the world's largest custodial bank. They have over 57 trillion in assets under custody, and they're also responsible for safeguarding assets for institutions like BlackRock, Vanguard, and Fidelity. And what are they doing? They're not getting cut out. They are being integrated into the tokenization infrastructure. In fact, just recently, BNY announced that they're offering tokenized deposits for institutional clients. They are working directly with Ripple Prime on this. They're the custodian for the reserves that are backing Ripple's stablecoin. So the banks are not the enemy of tokenization, they are partners in it. And what we are seeing is this sort of hybrid model that will emerge where you have blockchain technology handling the transaction layer, the speed, the efficiency, the programmability. But traditional finance institutions that are handling the custody layer, the compliance layer, the so-called trust layer. And so the crypto versus banks narratives was always wrong. It's not crypto versus banks. It's crypto with banks for institutional benefits. And I think that's an important distinction to understand. Now, I want to talk about something that might be a little bit uncomfortable, and that's the regulatory environment that made all of this possible. Because here's what I've noticed. The regulatory environment for crypto did not evolve organically. It was shaped very deliberately by the same institutions that are now building on it. Let me walk you through the timeline. The current US administration comes into office with a very clear pro crypto stance. And within the first few weeks, you have executive orders creating a crypto task force. And then you have the Genius Act getting passed. This is huge because the Genius Act mandates that stablecoin issuers back their stablecoins one-to-one with short-term US treasuries. Overnight, you've created a massive buyer for short-term treasury debt. And then you have the SEC chair, who is very openly pro-crypto, and the whole enforcement posture of the SEC shifts. The SEC issues guidance that's much more favorable to digital assets. And then you have the DTCC getting their no action letter. You have Nasdaq filing for tokenized trading, the NYSE announcing their platform. Now, I'm not trying to push conspiracy theories here, but I'm asking you to notice the pattern. The institutions that spent years lobbying for regulatory clarity are the same ones that are best positioned to benefit from that clarity. And so when people ask me, Mide, is this news bullish for crypto? I would say it depends on what you mean by crypto. Is it bullish for the technology being adopted now? Sure. Is it bullish for the idea that blockchain was going to decentralize finance and take power away from the institutions? I don't know about that. And so what does all of this actually mean for you? What should you do about it? Now, let me be very clear. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm just a guy sitting in his car sharing his thoughts on a very wet, cold day. But I will share how I'm thinking about this. First, recognize where we are in the cycle. The build out of tokenized infrastructure is happening, period. It's not a question of if anymore, it's a question of when and how fast. This is infrastructure that is being laid for, the next decade of financial markets. Second, understand who this benefits because in the short term, this benefits the institutions. They're the ones who can take advantage of 24/7 trading, instant settlement, and improved capital efficiency. And so, in the medium term, this might benefit regular investors through things like fractional shares, lower fees, and expanded access. But in the long term, well, we'll see. But I'll be cautious about assuming that this automatically benefits retail investors. Third, pay attention to where the rails are being built because if everything is going to be tokenized, and Larry Finks keeps saying it will be, then understand which blockchains, which protocols, and which infrastructure providers are being integrated into Wall Street systems because that matters. Fourth, don't sleep on stablecoins because the fact that the NYSE is building stablecoin funding directly into their platform is massive. It normalizes stablecoins as institutional money. It cements their role in the financial system. And remember, under the Genius Act, like I mentioned before, stablecoin issuers are required to hold short-term treasuries. And that creates structural demand for US debt. The government wants this. The institutions want this. It's a symbiotic relationship. And fifth, be honest about what's happening because we were told that blockchain will democratize finance. And maybe in the very long run, that's still possible. But right now, what I see is the largest financial institutions adopting blockchain to make their systems faster, more efficient, and basically to have a lot more control. And so the question I keep coming back to is, what problem are they trying to solve and for whom? Because from where I'm sitting, this looks less like financial innovation for the benefit of regular people like you and me, and more like infrastructure replacement for the benefit of institutions who were already winning anyway. The NYSE isn't joining the crypto revolution. The crypto revolution is joining the NYSE. And now, maybe I'm wrong about all of this. Maybe I'm being too cynical. Maybe this really is the first step towards a more open and more efficient, more accessible financial system for everyone. But I don't think so. So if you think I missed something here, or if you agree with my analysis, do let me know in the comments below. And please like and share the video if you got any value from it. It helps my channel to grow. And subscribe if you want to see more analysis like this. I'm out. Bye.